Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go.
So just what we were saying is that we're talking about kindness this morning. I can't say the word kindness. And the reason I suggested this as a topic is because, like I was saying just now, I have a 6-minute diary, which I do 3 minutes writing in the morning and then 3 in the evening before I go to bed. And there are prompts. And there's things like 3 things you're grateful for and how are you going to make today great and da, 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 da. And one of the prompts is your good deed for the day, and you have to write what was the good deed that you did today. And basically the reason it gave me the idea to talk about kindness on this is because I found that I like to think hopefully I do things that are kind anyway, but I found that I'm now going more out of my way to do a good deed every day, for somebody else, because I've got to write it in this journal. And that sounds really, really bad, doesn't it? But just being completely honest, all I'm saying is it's making me think about it more. And for example, now I will make more of an effort to kind of just smile at someone when I'm walking down the street or hold the door for someone. Things I like to think I do sometimes, but maybe not all the time. And yesterday I was on a walk and I was going along this path alongside this river, this very sort of thin little path. And there was a bit where the river had kind of flooded, and I helped this little old lady, bless her. She was walking along in her wellies, and I helped her kind of get across this little sort of stream bit of this river. And so I just thought it'd be worth talking about, because obviously the world we live in can be a bit shit sometimes. And actually, if everybody on the planet was prioritizing kindness, there is absolutely no doubt that we'd be living in a better world. And I think we probably all know that if we think about it, because if every single person was thinking first and foremost about being kind to others, then the world would just get better and better and better and better. And also the thing about kindness is that it has similar physical and mental effects as gratitude. And so and also I've talked about this on my podcast, because when I've talked about loneliness, because obviously my podcast is for single women, and not that we're all lonely, I hasten to add, but obviously, there are single women out there who do feel lonely. And one of the things that they recommend for people who are lonely is to help others and do sorry, just flicking something off my screen, and do something to help other people. So one of the things that people suggest for loneliness is to volunteer, because when you are helping somebody else, it automatically not only makes them feel good, but it makes you feel good. And so there are all of the, it's kind of such a win-win situation, because when you're kind, that makes the other person feel good, and it also makes you feel good. And from a scientific point of view, oh my God, don't quote me for God's sake, but from the teeny little bit of research I've done, in the same way that when you're grateful, when you're kind, you're producing oxytocin and serotonin and all those kind of good feeling chemicals. It's like you're flooding your body with good feeling chemicals. And it can apparently even protect against heart disease and anxiety and depression. And so it really seems to be another one of those things that we should all be working more into our daily life. And I'm sure that everyone watching or everybody listening, when they listen to this on the podcast, I'm sure all of us are kind people and do things that are, that are kind. But it's sort of my 6-minute journal is just making me really up the ante on my good deeds and my kind deeds every day. So yeah, I'll shut up.
Yes, I love that we're talking about kindness, because I was actually I was listening to podcasts this morning, so I thought, I'm going to see what's out there on kindness. So I listened to a podcast. It was Dr. Chatterjee, and he was talking to David Hamilton, who's a Scots guy. You recommended me a book of his
Did I?
once, the Woo Woo book.
Oh
It was
yes.
about, anyway,
Why we work.
he's literally like a quoting study man. He just has some amazing amount of research. And it was a really brilliant podcast episode. Actually, I really enjoyed the whole lot of it because there was so much of the stuff that we love talking about. But he was saying about kindness exactly what you just said about how it's not. It obviously makes us feel good. It makes the person who's receiving it feel good because you're brightening up their day. You're making them feel seen. It's that quote. Is it Mary Angelou quote who says, people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. And so you're going to make someone feel really good, but also you as the kind giver also get all the benefits as well. It helps us feel good. And yeah, he was saying, it reduces cardiovascular disease. It improves aging. It kind of helps, those little telomeres on the end in your, those aging parts of us somewhere in our body. It really helps protect those. So there are so many benefits. And one of the really interesting things he said is things like, if you receive treatment for a physical issue, there's studies on this. So if you have, you're being treated by a doctor, if the doctor treats you with kindness, with compassion, with empathy, there was a study which shows that the person receiving the treatment was 50% more, had results which were 50% better than if the treatment was given without any kindness. I mean, that's completely bonkers because it's that reception of the kindness and the empathy and the compassion which really helps you feel, that treatment to be received in the way that it should be. So it's so blimmin' powerful. So I agree, it's really made me think about it even more. Again, I'd like to think I'm kind, but I have also, a bit like you, been trying a little bit more recently, just to all the sort of the people I speak to in everyday life, who I come across, I just try and smile. I kind of try and be, just not just kind of robotic and automatic as it's so easy to do, but I do try and just be a little bit kinder than perhaps I would automatically be. And sometimes we're so lost in what we are doing that we forget. If someone's serving you a coffee and that you'll know this, you probably go into, I imagine, when you're serving 100 coffees in the morning, you probably go into automatic mode. But actually, if someone is engaging in you and is smiling at you, the effect that it has, not for them but also for you. And then actually they were also saying on this podcast this morning I was listening to, that the ripple effect, it's contagious. It's not just affecting the interaction between the two people. Actually, the ripples are vast. They were saying, someone's calculated that one act of kindness can almost ripple out to 100 people because everybody then feels a little bit better. They might be more likely to be kind to the next person, to the next person, to the next person, and it just ripples. So it's one of those things that we can all make a change in this. However insignificant we might feel we are, actually, just by being a bit kinder can really change the environment and the experience of others.
Completely. I love so much of I love all of what you just said. Can I just say though, you had me at aging. I mean, hello. I'm so fucking kind from now on.
Yes.
One thing actually that speaking of coffee shops, not that I'm working one anymore, but as you know, I did for 3 years and I may well do again. But I was in a coffee shop buying a coffee myself yesterday, and this was a classic. And I think I was in a hurry, and so I wanted my coffee, but I was sort of stood there, and they were quite. And actually, I know that, and actually, since I've worked in a coffee shop, I am so much more patient when it comes to getting coffee, because if you go into an independent coffee shop, sorry, go off a complete tangent about coffee, but it freaking takes a minute to make a coffee. Like, you got to put the shot on, la 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 la, steam the milk, la la la. It takes a while. So I now really know to kind of be much more patient when I'm in the queue for a coffee shop. And if I'm in a rush, because actually one of the things that used to really piss me off is when people will come in to get their coffee when I was working in the coffee shop. They'd come in to get their coffee and they would be like, well, how long is it going to take? I'm in a real rush. I've got to catch a train in 5 minutes. And I'd be like, I didn't say it, but I'd be like, why did you come in to get a coffee knowing that you've only got 5 minutes until you catch your train? Not my problem. Anyway, in this coffee shop yesterday, and I got the coffee eventually, and it was quite slow. And then I kind of was like, thanks, bye. Walked out, took a sip as I'd already walked out the door, took a sip and almost gagged because I only drink oat milk in coffee, and when I drink coffee that has normal milk in it, I'm like, oh my god, I just can't tolerate it. And funnily enough, that is since I worked in a coffee shop. I started drinking oat milk. I tried it when I worked there, and I've been drinking oat in coffee ever since. And anyway, I walked back in, but because I sort of got it in my mind, and I liked, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't have gone back in there and been like, fucking hell. But I was more mindful to be kind, and so I said, I think this is normal milk instead of, or I said, I don't think this is oat milk, and she was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I was like, really, don't worry. And just being more mindful about being kind made me kinder than perhaps I would have been, because I was in a hurry. So I might have been a bit like, oh my god, it's not oat milk. Can I get blah, 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 blah? And so yeah, just by being more mindful about it, and in your interactions with people, because actually, when it comes to doing good deeds of the day and being kind to people, actually, this probably the best opportunity is going to be as you are out and about, walking through the world, going into shops, going into coffee shops, going into the office, or whatever it is. It's the people you're going to come in contact with out and about that you're going to have that opportunity to be kind to. And one thing, thinking about all those good feeling chemicals that we flood our body with. When I do my meditations, my breath work, I did one of your breathwork sessions this morning, by the way, which was amazing. One of the ones that we recorded. And whenever I do that, I always think to myself, I imagine my body being flooded with all these really feel-good chemicals. And so that's something to think about when you are engaged in an act of kindness. Just imagine your body just filling up with all these amazing chemicals that are going to make you feel good, that's going to make the person you're being kind to feel good. Again, it really is a freaking win-win, isn't it?
And also, it makes the people who witness the kindness feel good, because they were saying this morning on this podcast that they did this study of people watching Mother Teresa be kind to homeless people in Calcutta, and they were measuring their oxytocin and I think it was their immune response or something, and again it all massively increased, and that was just watching someone be kind. So it's one of those nice things. Actually, very often in life, we the things which we really love and enjoy are bad for us, but actually this is something which is something which makes us feel good and is good for us. So it's something which, yeah, I think we're just being mindful of doing, just increasing it, upping your levels of happiness, because it really is the antidote to stress. If you think, what's the opposite to stress? Kindness, because stress is releasing the stress hormones, your physiology, whereas kindness is releasing the opposite, your oxytocin, your serotonin, all those really good feel good hormones. So it's kind of like the antithesis of that. So yes, we've just got to do more kind things. So what would you say, Lucy, then, in terms of someone? So you said it's just about the interactions you have with people. What other things can we do which can, just a little, it's just kind of the small actions, isn't it? It's not like changing what we do. A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
I personally think that a really, really easy one that I tend to do and have done for quite a long time is smile at people. I've got into a habit, like I think I mentioned it earlier in the conversation, but I tend to make a point, especially if I'm walking past someone who's kind of, got their heads down. It's particularly, I'm a real sucker for little old men. I don't know why. I don't get the same about little old women. No offense, but it's little old men. They make my heart bleed. I just can't take it. So if I see a little old man and he's kind of walking, sort of shuffling down the street, I will make a point of like making eye contact and smiling and saying good morning. And when you do that, you see how people appreciate that. like you can see it in someone's face, because especially in the freaking UK, you know, it's weird almost when somebody smiles, and sometimes I'll smile at someone, they'll look at me like I'm a lunatic, fair enough. But actually, it's such an easy one. And so often I've smiled randomly at somebody and sort of said hi, and you you can feel how much that means to them, and how that makes them feel good. And also, going back to the whole ripple effect, when you smile at somebody who might be in a foul mood, for example, who might be feeling really down, or, you know, it's Monday morning, you might be feeling a bit shit, if you make an effort to smile at somebody and say hello, and then you have that connection, that sort of stranger connection, that's actually so cool and so meaningful, even though you're probably never going to see that person again, but they then are more likely to do an act of kindness to somebody else. They're then likely to smile at the next person that they see. So actually, doing, you know, kindness is contagious. If we do an act of kindness towards someone, then that person is more likely to then do the same themselves. So we're just spreading the freaking love,
Yeah.
the world, man.
Can I just say that I've just made me think, so I've just been in South Africa with my parents and 10 of their friends, and how appearances can be so deceptive. One of their friends, when you look at him, he looks like a little old man. He looks old, but oh my God, he runs a 5K park run every single weekend.
Wow.
His brain is like the sharp. He's learning Italian. He is. I mean, I mean, I was so blown away. And actually, what I can see with this group, with not all of them, but with some of the group, the ones which were really fit and healthy, they're all sort of in their 80s, was that those who really look after themselves in terms of moving their bodies. Like there's one woman who I love, and she regularly does Pilates. She's really fit and healthy. You know, she's amazing. You know, that just totally in mind and body. So yes, it was just, I thought it's just really fascinating, isn't it? How, yeah, sometimes looks can be deceiving. Having said that, you can still smile at them because they'll still love it and they'll still be so grateful. The other thing, which I always think we must all do, and I told my husband off of this the other day because he didn't do it, because he said to me, "Oh, I saw so and so, a friend of ours, and she's recently lost her mum, and she really, normally she's a really sparkly person, and obviously she lost a bit of her sparkle, and it's been a really sad time for her." And Giles saw her on the beach, and he came home and said, "Oh my gosh, she got her sparkle back. She looked amazing, really." And I said, "Did you tell her?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Why did you not tell her? If you think these things, you have got to say it out loud, because that would have made her feel even better." Anyway, so I messaged her and said, just said this, and I told him off for not telling you, because that's something I think if you think something nice about somebody, you've just got to say it out loud, because how lovely is it to receive from somebody a compliment? And often it's the compliments not necessarily about your appearance, but the kind, if you have been kind, or if you have, I don't know, whatever it might be. So and on that, I suppose it's also being able to receive the kindness, because again, so many of us might bat that off and go, "Oh no, what?" You kind of, if you have a compliment about, "Oh, you look, your hair looks amazing," and you go, "Oh no, it looks shit," but actually, it's like, yeah, thanks, I will receive that, and that's a massive part of this whole kindness, because we're too quick to kind of push it away.
100%. And I couldn't agree more about complimenting people. That is, again, it's a really easy win, like smiling at somebody. And going back to the coffee shop, it all goes back to the coffee shop. I was that person who I used to, if say somebody came in, and it was hilarious because I used to work with, I'm 48, and I used to work with a load of people who were in their 20s and basically thought I was insane on many levels. But anyway, one of the reasons is because when sometimes people used to come in and say somebody was wearing something that I really loved, or they had a really cool outfit, I'd be like, "Oh my God, I love your outfit." And you just have to say it to people, because it makes people feel so good. So yeah, I love that. Make sure that you compliment people. And if you're thinking something when you're having a conversation with someone, if you're thinking, "God, you've really grown," or you've really you're just really lovely, or I just think you're really awesome. Just say that, because we don't say it. And yeah, it's so important to receive compliments. I used to always be that girl who's like, no, I shit, I'm shit, I'm blah, blah, blah. And actually now, these days, when somebody compliments me, I will say thanks. That's now my go-to. I'm like, no, none of this shit, none of this self-deprecating bollocks. And I go, thank you so much. Do you know one thing before we think about wrapping up, is the other aspect of kindness, of course, is we've got to be kind to ourselves. And this is something that I don't think we're very good at, myself included. And I read a book in my membership book club called Self-Compassion by Kristin Neff. Have you heard of it, Polly? Yeah.
Yes.
Have you read
I haven't read her book, but I've seen quite a lot of, I've listened to quite a lot of podcasts with her. She's great.
Yeah, so she is like the self-compassion guru. And one of the main aspects of self-compassion, of course, is self-kindness. And she talks about, essentially, when you are more compassionate towards yourself, you are healthier, you are more optimistic, you have higher self-esteem. There are so many benefits. And we've got to get into the habit of being kinder to ourselves, especially when we have fucked up, which is something that I'm so familiar with, I can't even tell you. And it used to be that if I made a dick of myself, again, have done multiple times, but it used to be that when I made a dick of myself, for example, did something where I felt like an idiot, I would just be like, oh my God, you just forgot, what, you're such a twat, da, 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 as we all do. Whereas the best way to be actually is to say, no, I'm not a twat. And also, this is one thing Kristin Neff talks about. It's one of my favorite things that she says about self-compassion, is that when we think about ourselves as part of a greater whole, and we think about, she calls it common humanity, which I love, because as soon as you think of something in terms of, I'm not the only one, whatever I'm feeling right now, whatever I've done that I feel, whatever mistake I feel like I've made, or however I failed, every single other person on this planet has felt the exact same way and has done the exact same thing or similar things. So I think being kind to I'm just reading the messages. Yes, a self-pep talk, exactly. But everybody has done, we all muck up, we all make mistakes, we all quote unquote fail at things in our life. So being kind to ourselves is just as important as being kind to others as well.
Yeah.
What would you say to that, Polly?
Yeah, no. Well, I totally agree. And yeah, I mean, I in the past have been really quite unkind to myself. And I think it's so easy. It's kind of a go-to, isn't it? You kind of start to beat yourself up and start to blame yourself for everything. And sometimes you're not even really aware of it. It's just that sort of those thoughts whizzing around your head. So again, that's just that self-awareness of catching yourself before you go down that downward spiral of negative thinking, and being able to kind of actually give yourself some love, some compassion. That's something I've really started to train myself to do. When something's feeling off, it's to actually try and find that part of me, wherever it is within me, and go and kind of send love, send kindness. And it's a practice. It's definitely a practice. It's definitely something which I find quite difficult, but it's it's having that awareness of the way that we talk to ourselves, because as everyone always says, it's that traditional thing, think how you talk to someone else. Would you talk to someone else the way you talk to yourself? And actually it's really damaging. It makes you feel really crappy. So yeah, I'm just having a look. We've actually got some messages, Lucy. I'm going to have a quick look. I know, it's quite exciting. So so we've got Dre, Hobus and Pudge said, I always make a huge effort to tell my team all the awesome things I think about them when they do a fab job, mainly because I love when I get positive reinforce myself. Amazing. Yeah, exactly. It's so nice. What else have we got? Jay Watts. Who's that?
Jenny, that's my friend Jenny.
Jenny, you recognise that? Agreed on the self-kindness. I've only been logged on to work for an hour and a half, and I've already had to give myself a right old talking to.
Oh, bless you.
Well, yeah, good. Well, I'm glad if this has helped in one small teeny way, that, a little reminder to be kind to yourself, and maybe go and do something. And if it encourages you to go and just be a little kind to somebody else as well, amazing.
and also going, oh, it's Jess. Oh my God. I thought it was my Jess. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's why
Oh
I know.
God. I'm so, do you know what, Jess? I'm sorry, love. I have a friend called Jenny who has a similar handle and I got confused. Sorry. Jess is in Thrive Solo.
That's why I know it.
Yeah.
It's Jess, I know.
I'm so sorry. I'm not gonna deride myself. It was a mistake. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. But I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Yes. I've completely forgotten what I was going to say.
Well,
Any, oh no. Oh no. I know what it was. It was why everybody should go and buy a 6-minute journal because they're actually really cool, and or bar that, just write down every evening, what have you done today? What was your good deed for the day? Thanks. Clara DT's just said, I love your turquoise ring. Thank you. This is my favorite ring in the whole wide world. I always wear it, and I got it in France. Funny enough, an ex-boyfriend bought it for me, actually, but hey, whatevs. Yes. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Cool. All right. Well, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to write down my act of kindness at the end of the day. Thanks, Lucy. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If you were here today,
Lots of love.
all right.
See you. Bye.
Take care.